We've all been there, haven't we? A moment when we did something we thought we'd never do, or said something we thought we could never take back. Maybe it wasn't intentional, maybe it was the heat of the moment, or maybe it was a series of things building up to that one point of no return. But the truth is, we don't always understand the weight of our actions until the dust settles and we're left staring at the wreckage. That's when the reality hits. The damage we've caused isn't just a scratch or a bruise. No, it's something far deeper. Something that can't be erased with an apology or swept under the rug. The consequences of our actions in relationships, they linger. They shape everything that comes after. It's easy to be blind to it when things are good, when life is flowing and everything seems fine. But once that moment of truth comes, when we look back and reflect, it becomes clear that every word spoken in anger, every action done without thought left a mark. And it's in that moment, the aftermath, that we start to see how those small choices, those seemingly insignificant moments, are often the very things that carve deep grooves into the fabric of our connections with others. You don't always realize how much a person means to you until they're no longer there, until something is lost. It's in that loss that you start to understand just how much you took for granted. And what's worse is that when you realize the harm you've caused, there's this overwhelming feeling, this suffocating weight of regret. You wish you could go back and undo it all. You wish you could take back those harsh words, those careless actions. But life doesn't work that way. Time doesn't rewind. And once you've hurt someone, you can't simply erase that hurt. You can't put a Band-Aid over a wound that needs healing. The road to healing, to repairing what's been broken, is long and it's difficult. Sometimes it feels like it might be too late. The person you've wronged, they might not be in a place to forgive right away. They might even walk away, leaving you alone with nothing but your own regret. And that's a bitter pill to swallow, trust me. But here's the thing, if you truly care, if you're willing to grow and reflect, that regret becomes a starting point for something deeper. It becomes the catalyst for change. It's not the regret itself that's important, it's what you do with it. If you sit in it, wallowing in your own guilt, nothing gets fixed. But if you take that regret, acknowledge it, and then move forward with the intention to make things right, that's when the transformation happens. It's not enough to feel bad about what you've done. You've got to show up. You've got to make a real effort to show the person you've hurt that you've learned, that you're not the same person you were when you made those mistakes. The consequences of our actions don't just disappear because we regret them. The damage we've done doesn't just vanish, but there's something powerful in the ability to face what we've done and take responsibility for it. That's where real growth begins. It's in the hard moments, the moments of reflection, that we find our true character. So when you've hurt someone, when you've made a mistake, don't let pride keep you from owning up to it. Don't let ego stand in the way of making things right. Because trust me, that regret will stick with you. It'll gnaw at you. It'll remind you over and over again of what you could have done differently. And eventually it'll bring you to a place where you realize, if you really care, if you truly understand the weight of what you've done, you'll come back. You'll come back in tears, full of regret, begging on your knees to make things right, because that's what happens when we truly learn the consequences of our actions. We all know how it is. You mess up, you say something you shouldn't have said, or you do something you can't take back, and what do? We dig in our heels. We let pride take over, telling ourselves that we don't need to apologize, that we don't need to admit our mistakes. We tell ourselves, I was right, or it wasn't that bad. We start to build walls, not just between us and the other person, but even between us and the truth. Pride can be a tricky thing. It doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it's that subtle voice in your head telling you that admitting you were wrong would make you weak. It's the fear that if you show vulnerability, people might take advantage of it, or worse, they might not see the value in you anymore. But let me tell you something. Pride may protect your ego for a moment, but it also keeps you from growing. It keeps you from learning the real lessons that life is trying to teach you. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with confidence. It's good to stand your ground when you believe in something. But there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance tells you that you're above reproach, that you don't need anyone else's input, that you don't need to be humble enough to admit when you've made a mistake. And when that arrogance kicks in, it can prevent any real healing from happening. It locks you in a state of denial. You keep saying to yourself, it's not my fault, or they'll get over it. But the reality is, when we let pride take over, we stop seeing things clearly. We stop seeing the hurt we've caused. We stop hearing the other person's pain because we're too focused on protecting ourselves. That's the danger. When you can't see past your own pride, you stop connecting with the people who matter most to you. You stop caring about their feelings because at that moment, your ego becomes the only thing that matters. And in the process, you create distance, not just physical distance, but emotional distance. You push them away with every word, every action that's driven by your pride. And it's only after you've pushed them too far that you begin to realize how much they really meant to you, how much you took them for granted, and then you're left with nothing but regret. But here's the truth we often forget. Pride doesn't have to be the final word. It doesn't have to be the thing that defines the outcome of the situation. You can choose to let go of that pride, to swallow that bitter pill of humility, and to acknowledge that you're not perfect. You can choose to be vulnerable and say, I messed up. And when you do that, when you drop the wall of pride, you open the door to healing. You make room for reconciliation. You show the other person that you're willing to take responsibility for your actions, that you're not too big to admit your mistakes. And that right there is where the real power lies. It's hard. I know it is. It's one of the hardest things to do, to put your pride aside and apologize, to own up to the hurt you've caused. But there's freedom in it. There's peace that comes with letting go of that pride and allowing yourself to be humble. And in that humility, you might find a way back to the person you've hurt. They might not forgive you right away, but at least you've opened the door for it. At least you've shown them that you're willing to change. And that's what matters. Because no matter how tough it gets, no matter how much pride may try to block the way, we all have the choice to let go of it and choose something greater. Love, growth, and the willingness to make things right. There's something about silence that can be deafening, isn't there? We think we need to speak our minds to clear the air, to fix things right away. But sometimes silence, the kind that creates distance, the kind that forces us to sit with our thoughts, is the thing that makes us see things most clearly. It's in those moments when you're left alone with your thoughts and you can no longer hide behind your distractions that you begin to reflect. You begin to see what you've done. You begin to understand the full weight of your actions. And that silence, though uncomfortable, can be the catalyst for growth. See, when we're in the thick of it, when we're in the middle of an argument or a heated situation, it's hard to see beyond the immediate. You react, you defend, you justify. But then comes the silence. Maybe it's the silence of not hearing from that person anymore. Maybe it's the quiet space that forms between you both after the words have been said, after the hurt has been caused. At first, you might feel relief. You might think, good, now I don't have to face the consequences of what I said. But then as the days go by, the silence starts to sink in. It's no longer a relief, it's a reminder. A reminder that something was broken. Something that you took for granted is now in pieces. and no amount of noise will fix it. In that silence, though, there's also a kind of clarity. It's like a mirror being held up to your face. You can't escape it. You have to face what's happened. The things you didn't want to admit to yourself, the hurt you caused that you may have ignored in the moment, all of it comes rushing to the surface. You can't drown it out with distractions anymore. You can't escape it with busyness or noise. That space, as uncomfortable as it is, forces you to slow down. It forces you to process what you've done and hopefully make sense of it. In that quiet, you begin to ask yourself the hard questions, questions you might have avoided when things were loud and fast. Did I really handle this the right way? How much of this could I have avoided if I just listened, just thought before reacting? And this is when the real work begins. When the dust settles and the noise fades, it's time to reckon with yourself. It's time to own up to the role you played in the situation. You can't hide behind your pride anymore. You can't bury the hurt you caused. All you have left is the truth, and it's waiting for you to see it. The distance, the silence may have been painful, but it also gave you the space to do the real work of reflecting and changing. You start to realize how much that person means to you. You start to see how much you took them for granted. You think about all the moments you had with them, all the good times that now feel like they were overshadowed by one bad choice, one bad mistake. And that realization hits hard. It stings. It's the kind of sting that makes you regret, makes you wish you could go back and do it all differently, but you can't. Time doesn't rewind. You can't undo what's been done. But what you can do is use that silence as a guide, as an opportunity to come back stronger, better. That distance, that space between you and the other person, it's not the end. It's just a pause. It's a chance to grow, to reflect, and to prepare yourself to make things right. It's the moment when you realize that what you thought you could live without, what you thought was just another relationship, was actually something worth fighting for. So in the end, that silence that you dreaded so much was never meant to be a punishment. It was meant to teach you. It was meant to open your eyes to what really matters. And when you finally find the courage to speak again, when you step out of that space of reflection, you'll be ready to show up, ready to apologize, ready to make it right. Because the silence only lasts until you're ready to change. Then, and only then, can you make your way back and try to repair what was broken. At some point in life, we all make mistakes, and I'm not talking about the little ones, those everyday slip-ups that we can laugh off and move on from. I'm talking about the big ones, the ones that change everything, the ones that shake us to our core. The kind of mistakes that in the moment feel like they're the end of the world. And for a while, you might think they are. But what I want you to understand is this: no mistake is beyond redemption. No error, no matter how significant, is the final chapter in your story if you're willing to learn, grow, and do the work to make it right. That's the beauty of being human. We have the capacity to change. We're not stuck in our past actions. And while the consequences of our mistakes may be heavy, they don't define who we are. That's where the power of growth comes in. If we're willing to look ourselves in the mirror, face the mistakes we've made, and take responsibility for them, we can change. We can do better. We can become better. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, you can't change the past. And that's true. We can't go back in time and undo what we've done. But the future, that's still in our hands. That's where the real power lies. If we've hurt someone, if we've broken trust, we can't simply erase the pain, but we can show up differently. We can show that we've learned. We can show that we've evolved. When you look at someone who's truly changed, It's not because they were perfect from the start. It's because they went through something that forced them to face the truth about themselves, forced them to confront their shortcomings, and made them want to be better. We all have the capacity for that. We all have the ability to turn our regrets into fuel for growth. The key to change is humility. It's not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about recognizing that we're not invincible, that we make mistakes, and that we're not above learning from them. The person who's willing to look back at their mistakes with honesty, to see the areas they need to improve, and then take action to change, that's the person who will find redemption. That's the person who will come back stronger, more self-aware, and with a deeper understanding of what truly matters. But change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a slow, steady climb. It requires patience, both with yourself and with the people you've wronged. You can't expect someone to forgive you right away, especially if the hurt you caused runs deep. Trust isn't easily rebuilt, and healing takes time. But if you're sincere in your desire to change, if you're committed to being a better version of yourself, that sincerity will shine through. It will become clear in your actions, in the way you carry yourself, and in the way you approach the relationship with the person you've hurt. It's not about saying all the right words. It's about showing up every day with integrity, with respect, and with a genuine desire to make things right. It's about doing the work, even when it's difficult, even when it feels like you're not making progress. Because the work you put in to change, to grow, to become the person you're meant to be, that work will eventually pay off. And it won't be easy. There will be moments when you'll want to give up, when you'll wonder if it's even worth it. But let me tell you something, change is worth it. Growth is worth it. The effort to become a better version of yourself is always worth it, because when you come through the other side, when you've learned and evolved, you'll be someone who's truly worthy of the second chances you're asking for. And when that person you've hurt sees the real, transformed you, they'll know it wasn't just words. It was action. It was real change. And that, my friends, is where true redemption lies. Regret is a powerful emotion, one that hits harder than anything else. It's not the kind of thing you can easily shake off or ignore. When you feel it, it consumes you. And if you've ever truly regretted something, whether it was a mistake you made, words you can't take back, or actions that left someone you care about in pain, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a heavy feeling, like a weight pressing down on your chest, reminding you of everything you've lost, everything you could have done differently. It's one of the most humbling experiences you can go through. And I'll tell you right now, regret doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about how strong you are, how much success you've had, or how much you've tried to hide from it. It sneaks up on you, often when you least expect it, and suddenly you're facing all the things you wish you could change. It can make you feel like you're drowning, like no matter how hard you try, you can't escape the weight of what's been done. And the more you think about it, the deeper the regret digs into you. The more you wish you could turn back time, undo that moment of poor judgment, take back that hurtful comment, or erase that decision that led you down the wrong path. But here's the thing about regret. It's not there to punish you. It's not there to tear you apart and leave you hopeless. Regret, if you allow it to, can be a tool for growth. It can be the thing that wakes you up, that forces you to acknowledge your flaws, your mistakes, and your wrongs. It can be the thing that brings you to a place of clarity, where you see things as they truly are, where you understand the depth of your actions. And more than anything, it's what can drive you to change. Regret is the emotional fuel that pushes you to be better. It's what reminds you that you're not perfect, that you're human, and that your mistakes don't define you. They don't have to be the end of your story, not if you choose to use them as a stepping stone. Because yes, regret hurts, it stings, but it's also a sign that you care. It's a sign that you understand the gravity of what you've done and that at your core, you want to do better, be better. You want to fix the things that are broken, especially when it comes to the people you love. When you regret something, it's a reminder of what truly matters to you. The pain of regret comes from the understanding that you've hurt someone or lost something you value deeply. And in that moment, you realize how important that person, that relationship truly was. That's why the regret feels so overwhelming. It's not just the mistake you made, it's the realization that you might have lost something that was once irreplaceable. But here's the good news. Regret doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of a new chapter, if you allow it. Regret can be what pushes you to do the work of reconciliation, the work of healing. It can motivate you to make things right, to show the person you hurt that you are sorry and that you truly understand the impact of what you did. Regret, in this sense, becomes a powerful motivator. It drives you to take action, to change your behavior, and to prove that you're worthy of forgiveness. And while the person you've wronged may not be ready to forgive you right away, while they might need time to heal, the act of confronting your regret and owning up to your mistakes is a step toward reconciliation. It's a sign that you're committed to change, to repairing what's been broken, and that sincerity is powerful. People can feel when you're truly remorseful. They can sense when you've gone through the emotional work to understand your role in the situation and when you're genuinely striving to make amends. Regret might be uncomfortable, even painful, but it's also the beginning of your journey back. It's what opens the door to healing. And when you can face it, when you can own up to it and use it as a tool for growth, you'll find that the person you've wronged, if they see that you've truly changed, will find it easier to meet you halfway. Because in the end, regret isn't about dwelling on the past. It's about learning from it, growing from it, and using it to become the person you were always meant to be. At the end of the day, what we all want is the chance to heal, to make things right. When we've hurt someone, when we've let them down, we don't just want to say sorry. We want to prove that we've learned, that we've grown, and that we're willing to put in the work to rebuild what's been broken. Reconciliation, true reconciliation, isn't just about offering words of apology. It's about showing up with actions that reflect the sincerity of those words. It's about meeting the other person halfway, showing them that you're not the same person you were when you made that mistake, and demonstrating that you understand the depth of the hurt you've caused. But here's the thing about reconciliation. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always happen on your timeline. Healing, whether it's for you or the person you've wronged, takes time. It's a slow process. And when you're the one who's caused the pain, it's up to you to have the patience to let that healing happen in its own time. You can't rush it. You can't force forgiveness. What you can do is show up consistently, show up with humility, and show up with the kind of change that proves you're truly sorry. If you truly want to heal, you've got to be willing to let go of your expectations about how fast or in what way the other person should respond. That's part of the work. You have to trust that in time, the person you've hurt will see the changes you're making, and when they're ready, they'll begin to open up to the possibility of healing with you. And while you wait, it's important to do the work on yourself. Reconciliation is about more than just fixing what's between you and that person. It's about fixing what's broken within you too. It's about taking the time to understand why you did what you did, why you acted in a way that caused pain, and how you can prevent it from happening again. If you're truly committed to reconciliation, you got to look inward, take responsibility for your part, and work to ensure that the same mistakes aren't repeated in the future. It's about growth. It's about doing the hard work of self-reflection and making the necessary changes in your life to become a better version of yourself. The truth is, the only way to truly heal what's been broken is if you're willing to change, not just for the other person, but for yourself too. Sometimes the hardest part of reconciliation isn't asking for forgiveness. It's accepting that the road to forgiveness might be long. You might find that the person you've hurt needs space, needs time to come to terms with everything. That's difficult, I know. It's painful, especially when you want to fix things right away. But real healing takes time. You can't rush the process. You can't force someone to forgive you. What you can do is show up with consistency, show up with sincerity, and show up with the changes that prove you're not just offering empty words, but a real commitment to making things right. It's also crucial to recognize that in some cases, reconciliation may not look like what you expect. It may not come in the form of an immediate, "I forgive you." It may not be a moment where everything is magically fixed. But reconciliation isn't always about the final, perfect moment. Sometimes it's about the small, steady steps you take to rebuild trust. It's about the long-term commitment to being a better person, to being someone worthy of that forgiveness. And even if the person you've hurt can't offer that forgiveness right away or maybe ever, the act of trying, the act of doing everything you can to make it right is still powerful. It's still valuable. It's still a victory in itself. So don't lose hope. Understand that reconciliation is a journey, not a destination. It's a process that requires patience, humility, and an unwavering commitment to making things right. It's about showing up every day with sincerity, with change, and with an open heart. And when that person sees that, when they see the genuine effort and growth, you'll know that the healing process has truly begun. And that's when the real reconciliation, the real mending starts to take place.